Hey, Jimbo, are you ready for this deal?
Hey, get her done.
I thought you were going to say, crack the torch.
No.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast. Brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, and now Shorty's Cowboy Hattery, the best cowboy hat you can get, handmade. Hey, this is old Coat. Oh, I forgot to say, we're coming to you live from the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, located in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Hey, it's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo Historian. He can tell you about the oil field history around here. He probably wrote a song about it on the way here. Mr. Jimbo Snively. Morning, Jimbo. Who we got today?
Morning, Cody boy. It's a great day in the Osage, man. And Cody, we got Troy Flaharty. He's a really well-known bit and spur maker, one of the best. Been making them for years, and then a few years back, he got into the artistic end of it. And now he's a member of the Traditional Cowboy Arts Association, which is as prestigious and exclusive a group as there is in the Western world. I guess, what is there, 13 members worldwide or something?
Something like that.
Something ridiculous.
We'll ask Troy here in a minute.
I know it. But so he's one of the most well-known Western artists in that regard that there is. And plus he makes the practical, usable bits and spurs too for all the barrel racers and the Western pleasure and all that stuff. So he's one of the best, and we're just tickled that he'd take time out to visit with us. And Troy, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Well, thank you all for having me. It's an honor to be a part of this. I enjoy listening to you guys about every week.
Well, thank you for that. I'm glad somebody's listening to us, Cody.
Yeah, I'm the guy.
Well, just for everybody's, so everybody knows, there for a few years, me and Jimbo, we did put a podcast out every week. Now we're down to the first and third Thursday every month. So.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Where were you raised up at, Troy?
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania and graduated high school. And when I left high school, I moved to Kansas, went to Fort Scott Community College on a rodeo scholarship. I roped calves and bulldogs and team roped a little bit. And after I moved there, I never went back.
You don't think of Pennsylvania, or at least I don't think of Pennsylvania as cowboy country or anything. Did y'all have horses and stuff in Pennsylvania?
Like you rodeo.
Yeah. It's big horse country back there, really. I mean, everybody thinks of New York City and Baltimore and Philadelphia, but it's actually very rural where I lived, you know. And I mean, we rodeoed all up and down the East Coast, and my family were horse trainers. They showed reiners. And so I didn't really care for the reining. It was too slow for me. And I started rope calves, and me and Jason Arndt, we moved to Kansas in about 1990, I guess it was, and went to college.
You know, one of the best calf ropers ever lived was born in Pennsylvania. You know who that was, Coach?
Probably.
I should know who that is. But who do you guys say?
Don McLaughlin.
I was going to say Don McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Don McLaughlin. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I did.
He's born in Pennsylvania.
I was just fixing to ask you, do you know any notable rodeo guys from Pennsylvania, Jimbo?
And another one you'd never suspect was Pete Knight, the old bronc rider, was born in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
How crazy is that?
Well, Troy comes from a long line
Boy, he
of
does.
famous cowboys from Pennsylvania.
He should have been a world champion cowboy. Shouldn't he?
I should have been, except I didn't rope good enough or bulldog good enough.
What did they have? Did they have junior rodeos or high school rodeos back there? Or
No, not when I was. I mean, I guess they had high school rodeos in Ohio, but I never went to any of them. I just went to the amateur rodeos. And then when I turned 18 and was old enough to get my card, I moved away. So I never went to any pro rodeos back there. But there were several, like in Castleton, Vermont, they had a weekly rodeo through the summer at like a dude ranch deal. And then Painted Pony Ranch at Lake Luzerne, New York. It was kind of a resort type deal, and they had weekly rodeos. You go there, and of course Cowtown at Woodstown, New Jersey, pro rodeo every week. But man, there was a lot of rodeos to go to back there, really. I mean, you had to drive quite a ways, but a lot of IRAs, and it was good to rodeo back there.
did you ever see old Ralph Williams rodeoing back there?
Oh yeah, I've seen Little Terry all the time, and all those guys back in the late '80s. That all the wolves. So for sure.
Who helped you with your roping back there?
Man, there's a guy named Nathan Mooney. He'd went to the IRA finals back in I'm going to say the late '70s, early '80s, and he roped calves, and he was a family friend, and he kind of got me started, and then I got a little older. Like I roped with Jason Arndt a lot, and I worked for his dad building horse trailers and lived over there. And then when I got out of high school, we moved to Kansas. But there's a lot of guys that roped pretty good back in that country. Ned Kilgus, do you know Ned Kilgus? It was Zane Kilgus' dad.
Yeah, I know the name.
Zach,
sure.
Yeah, Zach Kilgus and Zane Kilgus, their dad. I rodeoed with him when I was, 16, 17, 18. So,
well, you must.
Like I say, I never won very much though, so I'm not very notable in that department.
Well, you must have been a pretty good roper. You got a rodeo scholarship in Kansas, didn't you?
Yeah, Fort Scott. Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't win much, but I, placed along a little bit. So, good enough, I guess.
Where all did you compete out of Fort Scott? What other colleges did y'all go up against?
Well, there'd been Manhattan, K-State and Colby and Weatherford, Oklahoma, Panhandle, Durant, Miami, Alva, Dodge City, Garden City, Fort Hays. I think that's all that was in the region at the time. Tishomingo. That's all I can remember at the time.
Was anybody in your family ever a steel worker back there in Pennsylvania?
No, they're all horse trainers. And my brother, all my family, my mom, she won the world 5 or 6 times in the reining. My uncle won the world in the reining. My cousin won the world in the reining. And my brother, he never really rode horses much, but he's a year older than me, and all he's ever done was hunt and fish. And he's an outfitter in Craig, Colorado now, has a huge ranch that he leases, and he takes like 150 hunters every year. But nobody really, I don't know why it interested me so much, but it sure did.
Well, it just seemed like it might have been in his blood somehow, coming from Pennsylvania and becoming a professional steel worker for a living.
I think more than anything, what interests me was bits were always just very utilitarian for us, and it interests me how you could tweak this and get this result with a bit or change things. And, it was kind of an art almost to what bit was going to make your horse perform the best or to the best of its ability. And I think that's really what kind of drew me to it. And then I always liked to draw when I was younger. I never really took art classes or anything, but it always interested me. And, I'm left-handed and I really have an artistic side that I didn't really discover till the last 10 or 15 years probably. And that's what led me to the TCAA.
Did you rope left-handed?
Oh yeah. Roped them tied left-handed. Yeah. Which was, I wish somebody would have made me rope right-handed growing up, but
somebody told me the other day, he's like, my kid's roping left-handed and I can't seem to break him from being left-handed. And they said, what should I do? And I said, well, break his left arm, so he has to rope with his right one, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't let him. Don't let him. I always wish I roped right-handed, but I probably wouldn't have. It'd have been. I didn't rope very good left-handed, so I don't know what made me think I'd have roped any better right-handed. But so,
Well, how'd you get started bit making? Did you go to a class or school, or did you just do it kind of learn on your own?
well, I tell you, when I was going to school at Fort Scott, I was taking welding classes and stuff, and there was a guy come through there that did like a little 2-day fundamental bit making class. It cost $100, and this was like 1990, 91, something like that. And you know, I was a broke college kid, and one of our assistant rodeo coaches, Dave Carey, he's like, you need to take that class. And he said, I'll pay your $100 and you can just make me some bits when you get done. And I took that 2-day class, and it's just something I've always done since then. Like I've, you know, trained horses and ran some mama cows and worked on some ranches, but I always had a shop in the background that I was doing it. And it's really the only thing that I've stuck with consistently through the last 35 years.
I feel like I remember you carrying around some of your very first stuff at some horse sales way back in the very early 90s.
Probably so. You were just a little runt back then, but your dad had the horse sale at Great Bend, wasn't it?
That's
wasn't
right.
It Great Bend?
Yes, sir. That's
yeah.
one of the horse sales that we ran.
Yeah, I used to take some horses there once in a great while, and yeah, I'm sure I had some stuff I was trying to pay the bills with. You know how that goes.
Oh yeah. We still got one of them at the house. I think that my dad bought from me at Great Bend.
Probably. Cool. Very cool.
Troy, were you not happy with the bits that were out there? Is that one of the reasons you started making your own, or were you just thinking of, I'd like to make them and sell them, or what was your thought process behind getting started making bits?
Yes, to all that. I guess, you know, I've always kind of been the guy like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. You know, if somebody's doing it, I can do it. And I always thought, man, if I learn to make cool bits, I'll have some cool bits of my own, you know. And what's ironic about it all is I don't own a single bit or pair of spurs of my own. Like my daughter has a pile of stuff, but I don't have anything because I don't hardly ride anymore. But yes, I thought, you know, like I said before, it really interests me how you could tweak some stuff and make changes and get a different result. And, you know, I just thought it was cool to make my own stuff, you know. That always really interested me.
I was going through your, on Facebook, I think, well, you had a whole list of your bits and stuff. And Cody, there must have been like 60 different bits, styles and things on there, you know. And are some of them your own invention, or some of them pretty standard, or yes, again to both. Like I have a website for my barrel racing bits, and I think there's, I don't know, 18 or 20 different cheek pieces and like 60 some different mouth pieces. So the way that website works is kind of like a menu. Those girls can get on there and kind of order, or guys get on there and order, you know, I want this cheek with this mouthpiece, and they can tweak on it and kind of get a custom handmade bit and kind of what they're wanting. But yeah, some of those I've designed on my own. Some of them are just, you know, standards. We're not reinventing the wheel here, but like some things that worked for me or worked for people I knew. And so I decided to, you know, market them that way. And I might add they're reasonably priced, you know, they're not.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I mean, most of my bits average from $150 to $250, you know, for plain barrel type bits, which is, you know, it's a lot higher than Chinese made ones, but you know, it's kind of on the market for American made, handmade.
If you can afford a horse today, you can surely afford those bits.
It's probably the cheapest part of the game, isn't it?
Right.
Who's some of the girls using your products right now?
Oh man, there's a lot.
I know you hate to name drop, but I'm pretty sure there's some pretty big names on that list.
Yeah, like, I mean, I make a lot of bits for, like, Bo Hill uses my bits, Teresa Duke, Cassie Mallory, I've made her some bits. I've made some bits for Haley Kinsel, Ivy Sabins, Jackie Ganner. I mean, a lot of the girls in the top 15, and a lot of NFR qualifiers, and a lot of futurity trainers. That's kind of where I got, that's kind of was my bread and butter for a long time as a futurity trainers. They bought a lot of my bits over the years. And so whatever those girls are using or guys are using and winning with, that kind of, that's what people want. So I've been pretty fortunate to have a lot of good support with some great trainers.
Jimbo, he mentioned Flaharty. I don't know if anybody knows this out there. My mom used to be a Flaharty barrel horse trainer. She won.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, she won the big one in Guthrie one time, and I think the second in the big one in Fort Smith one time, and Martha Josie actually bought one of her horses.
Really?
Yep, and went on and done some big things with it.
Yeah, your mom was a great hand.
I remember that one. That one big one she won. She said, "I done paid off our house today, Cody." She won the Flaharty, sold her horse, the whole bucks. We had like $50,000. We'd never seen such a thing before, and they paid off our house that day with winning a barrel horse Flaharty.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That it used to be back in the day. That's the only time those horses made any money is when you sold them. Now it's gotten to where there's so much money available. You can kind of, I don't know, you can make a living with one, but they can kind of scratch around and pay their way a little more than they used to. But
if you got a dang sure good one, I think now, nowadays it's unprecedented what a guy can do or a girl can do,
yeah, and it's also unprecedented what one costs too. So I guess it's all relative.
Exactly. My nephew, he's riding one right now. I think costs about $3,500, wow. and doing real good at the Osage Opens on.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
perfect.
Nice gray horse.
Yeah,
but on the same hand, I bought one that's just a young horse the other day, Jimbo, just to maybe make a steer horse out of someday, and he cost $15,000 and hadn't had anything done with him. So
and
that's crazy,
and that's a pretty good buy. That's a pretty good buy, really.
He might have been worth the money. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I've learned in the horse business is it doesn't matter what they cost. If they work out and turn out good, they were dirt cheap, and if they don't work out, they were way too high. So, you know what I mean? Like, if it works, it doesn't matter what you paid for him. He was cheap.
Yeah, and that was the way it was 80 years ago, too, or 60 years ago, same way.
Right.
Right.
If you're trying to win on one.
Yeah.
It's about time, in my opinion, that the horse you're putting in your truck and trailer is worth how much your truck and trailer is, because it's the most important thing to win at rodeoing. The horse you're riding, plus
absolutely
just a little bit of talent on your part and a good horse, you're going to do some good for sure.
Yeah, you got any sense, you should, huh?
But yeah, it's about time that I guess the horse that you're pulling in your trailer is worth however much that trailer is,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
My rodeo rigs, it wouldn't have took a very expensive horse, to be worth more than the truck and trailer I was pulling up and down the road, though.
Right.
That's me. I went a lot of miles in a one horse trailer and a idle time camper on the back of my 3/4 ton pickup.
Oh yeah. When I was coming up, there wasn't any living quarters trailers at all. Zero.
No.
I remember the first Capri campers that came along, and I'm like, oh man, these are so nice. But heck, we were still staying in old motels and stuff, when I was a kid. Everybody just packing a motel.
If you tried to pull up to an RCA rodeo now in a 2-horse side-by-side trailer or something, everybody say, look at this guy, look at this.
Yeah. Just couldn't even find a place to park because the other rigs are so big.
Right.
Yeah, I think old Troy Pruitt was the last one to really do it the hard way, like win the world the hard way, like one horse trailer and a little camper and go by himself. And you know what I mean? Like that, I have great respect for him.
I do too. He, another weird coincidence I just thought of. He mentioned Troy Pruitt. Where I grew up in Kansas, Jimbo, my mom used to work for this fella named Junior Lewis. He was a good calf roper, made the national finals. And they were processing cattle all day, every day. I don't know, Junior would just buy cattle. It seemed like he'd buy mostly sick cattle for some reason. And
because they're cheap.
Yeah. But guess who was over there roping every day? Troy Pruitt.
Troy
Pruitt. He was riding Junior's horses, and Junior was actually traveling with him some, helping him with the horses, helping him in the box, helping him see the start. And when Troy Pruitt won the world, he was hanging out down there at Junior's.
He was riding. Was he riding Art that year, or Batman that he won the world? Did he ride him at the finals that year?
I remember him riding a real good gray horse, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was kind of young and dumb, not paying as much attention as I should have been, actually.
Well, when I lived in Kansas, Junior, he let me. I was broke out of college, and he gave me about 6 or 8 old practice calves to rope just to practice on. And that was when he had Art and Batman, and they were like 1 and 2 horse of the year that year. One year, maybe did both of them? Maybe both of them won horse of the year, like a year apart or something.
I think
but
so.
They were both bay horses, and I know Troy and Ty Hayes and those guys all rode, and Bud Ford rode one of them at the finals one year. So.
Yeah, he won a pile of money on that horse too that year. Bud made the finals. He gave a real push to win the world that year.
Yeah, for sure. So
God, that
they were
guy
good horses.
Good.
Junior was a good hand with the horse. He had some good ones.
He was always training a horse there, and what I always noticed about Junior and always respected about him, he always had a bunch of young calf ropers there helping him.
And then
for
sure.
And then people like he did mention Ty Hayes. Like Ty Hayes's family, they sent him to Junior to haul him up and down the road. One of the last years that he went up and down the year he made the finals.
For sure.
So
for sure.
Junior really helped a lot of good young calf ropers out. And,
he's a big, hardcore, tough son of a gun, but he had a big heart. Like he helped a lot of people.
And then my mom would make me skip school to go out there and help process cattle with her juniors.
Make you skip school. I bet she had.
I bet that was a tough gig.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Troy, I'm curious, what makes a barrel racing bit? What do they want in a bit?
They want some. Everybody's different, and everybody. I always say, like, you're not buying a bit to fit your horse. You're buying a bit to fit your hands on a particular horse. A lot of people think that they're fitting the bit to the horse, but in my opinion, you're actually fitting what feels good in your hands. So, it's just got to be balanced, have a good ratio. I like a bit to have some weight to it so it releases faster. I think a horse learns on the release, not on the pressure. So I want something that releases real quick and just has a comfortable mouthpiece that fits good and is shaped correctly. And I think that's what makes a good bit. Really, it's not rocket science, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the other day I saw you went to the Western Heritage Awards at the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
I did, yeah.
What was that like? Had you ever been there before?
Of course, I've been to the museum a lot, but not to the Western Heritage Awards. I got invited. Scott Hardy is a founding member of the TCAA, a silversmith, and he's kind of the go-between between the TCAA and the museum. So during that week, they have all their board meetings and stuff, and Scott had to go, present the TCAA and what we're doing for the show this year and all that. So he invited me to come up there and meet a lot of the board members. And it was a big time. It's kind of out of my element. It's not really what I'm good at. I'm not good talking to big, a lot of people and stuff, but it was great. I met a lot of people, and Brooks and Dunn got inducted into the Hall of Fame or Hall of Great Westerners. And that was kind of cool. And Reba was there. So that was cool. Got to see her. And, Graham Greene, an actor from Dances with Wolves, he was there.
Oh yeah, Graham Greene, that's a good actor too.
Yeah, really good. So it was pretty cool to see that side of life. It's a lot different than being in my shop every day, that's for sure. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Lots
of movie stars. Was there any John Wayne's family there?
Yeah, his granddaughter was there. She gave out an award, and then Will Rogers' granddaughter was there. She gave out an award too. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
I'm a big fan of Will Rogers, Jimbo.
Oh yeah. Roping Fool.
Go figure. Huh?
The Roping Fool, yeah. The Roping Fool. Yeah. One time, have you ever seen that movie, Troy? The Roping Fool?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When he catches that mouse,
he
ropes that mouse. Will Rogers ropes a mouse in this movie called The Roping Fool. It's like a 22-minute video showing Will Rogers' roping skills, and this guy is a roping dude. And so that was my favorite movie when I was a kid. I wore out many of the video cassette tapes, and I went and bought this hamster, and was thought I was gonna practice roping this hamster like he did the mouse in The Roping Fool. And I woke up one morning, the awfulest scream in my life, and my mom's so scared of mice. And she said, "Oh my God, Cody, there's a paint mouse running around in the kitchen." I said, "No, that's my roping hamster. Leave him alone." But,
My practice stock. Well, they don't eat much. You could buy a lot of them.
I picked him up, and his eyes like turned red, and he like tried to bite me, and that's the last thing I ever had to do with that hamster. I was like, this thing's mean looking.
Yeah, I imagine a choking will do that to one, probably.
No, I was real nice to my hamster. Barely didn't even pull my
I bet you were. I bet you were.
Well, Troy, when did you get into the artistic end of the bit and spur making? What got you interested in that?
Well, I'm going to say it's probably been 15 years ago now. The TCAA used to do workshops at the museum, and I was living in Oklahoma at the time at Perkins, and I thought I'd go down there and see what that was all about. And man, it really opened up a whole new world to me that, bit and spur making is an art. It's not just utilitarian. It is an art. And that just, it really got me excited and stoked to take it to another level. And that's, what it's been ever since is, I think in 2015, so 10 years ago now, I entered the Emerging Artist Contest that the TCA put on in Mesa, Arizona. Made a real cool bit for that. And at the year after that, they gave me a fellowship, which is like at the time, it was a $12,000, kind of like a scholarship to go study with the bit and spur makers that are in the TCA. And it's just been a steady progression after that. And then in 2023, I finally applied for membership and got accepted. And last year, 24, was my first show and sale. So it's just been a slow process for me to get there, but finally became a member.
If you were going to explain this TCA, because we got a lot of people that listen to it, our podcast, and we got a lot of cowboys and we got a lot of non-cowboys. But what exactly is the TCA? Just so everybody can know what this association is, we've been talking about this whole time.
Well, there's 4 disciplines. It's the Traditional Cowboy Arts Association. It's bit and spur making, saddle making, silversmithing, and rawhide braiding. And what it is, like we're preserving the arts. Like we're big on education. Like I say, now we give away 2 $15,000 fellowships every year to people who apply for the fellowship, and then they get this come stay with and learn from the members in that discipline. So anyhow, we're big on education. We have a show and sale, an exhibition every year at the museum. It's the last weekend in September. And I think we have like 13 members is all throughout the world. Got a rawhide braider from Argentina. We just had a guy from Germany get his fellowship, a saddle maker from Germany get a fellowship this past year. And also, last month at our spring meeting, we accepted our first female member, Carol Gassell from Idaho, great saddle maker. So she's the first female member. So it fluctuates the number of members. There's been as many as 20, 22 members. There's been as few as, I think there was 10 members the year I got in. And so it fluctuates. We have, people, they go emeritus status, which is kind of, I don't want to say retiring, but like they're still a member, but they don't have to perform the duties of being a full-fledged voting member. They don't have to come to the show and sale or put pieces in if they don't want to. They don't have to come to the spring and fall meetings if they don't want to. But it's people that have earned the right to be an emeritus member. But anyhow, there's an application process to be a member.
There we go. That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, for me, as a bit and spur maker, I had to make 3 pieces. And I went to the fall meeting, took 3 pieces. They looked at them. They did an interview with me and then asked a lot of questions. And then, like, why do you want to be a member of this group? And so then they vote, and you have to have a 75% membership approval to become a member. And like a saddle maker has to make a saddle. A silversmith has to make 3 pieces. A rawhide braider has to make 3 pieces. So, and that's how you become a member. You just have to be a leader in your industry, or one of the top guys in your discipline, or gals.
And then
I'll watch myself now.
And then they judge the pieces you make to see if your work's good enough to be.
Yeah, they look at them. So, like Carol, for example, she at our spring meeting in Scottsdale, she brought a saddle, and the saddle makers all looked it over. This takes a few hours. They look it over, they discuss it, they tell us what they see, we look at it, and then she comes in and we have an interview with her. And I think it's pretty important that not only the work has to be impeccable, but they have to have the right personality, the right fit for the group. You don't want somebody to come in there and be a bad apple. It has to fit with the group and what the group's mission is. So it's very important. It's almost as important as the quality of work, if that makes sense.
You're lucky they let you in with all those stipulations, Troy.
Got him fooled, didn't I?
I'm just kidding, man. Yeah, there's not a better guy than Troy, man. He's totally deserving of it, and his stuff is. So the pieces you made to become a member, what happened to those pieces, Troy?
So there was 3 pieces. There was 2 bits and a pair of spurs. One of the bits I actually made for my daughter. I thought it'd be cool to give her one of my application pieces. And so my application process was during the show and sale. It was that week of 2023. And one of the collectors that was there, that I was down having breakfast one morning, having coffee, and he came in and he's like, "What about your application pieces?" He said, "I like to buy those to put in my collection since you've been accepted." And so he bought the bit and a pair of spurs. So they're in a collection in Washington, D.C. in Maryland.
I know I shouldn't ask this, but how much did you get for that pair of bit and spurs?
That bit, you're going to get me lying. That bit was like $9,800, and I think the spurs were a little over 10 or 11,000, something like that.
Wow, about $20,000 for a pair.
Wished I'd known about that.
Holy moly! Had you ever sold a pair of bits and spurs for that much money prior to that?
I had not. No, that was the best work I'd ever done at that point. So therefore, it was the most expensive. I did sell a bit last year for $21,000 at the show, a spade bit that I'd made. So that was kind of cool.
That's just unbelievable. He went.
I know
he went from this
like
$100 school in Fort Scott. Now he's making $21,000 bits. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
I know that it sounds like a lot of money, but I mean, the way I do my deal is I pay myself by the hour. I have a set price per hour, and I just keep track of my time. So, I mean, I pay myself $110 an hour. So that bit had well over 200 hours in it, plus, $600,000 or $800,000 worth of gold and silver. And, so I'm just making what a diesel mechanic makes.
Yeah.
Well, can you explain that bit you made last year? Because Jimbo, this is probably going to be one of the most famous bits of all time. When I saw it, I kind of followed the process when he was making it, and then I saw it. It just absolutely blew me away. I've never seen anything like it to this day. He really set a high standard for all bit and spur makers with this bit. It kind of tell us what that bit looked like, Troy, and the name of it, so everyone can go Google it and look at it.
Yeah, it's called Hung the Moon, or Hung on the Moon. So it was a Santa Barbara cheek spade bit, and I did relief, like gun style relief sculpted engraving, like the scrolls and stuff. But on the cheek, I inlaid a cowgirl, like a pinup cowgirl sitting on a moon, and inlaid it in 3 different colors, inlaid her in 3 different colors of gold, and like had fine silver and gold inlays around the edges. And it was like I say, it had well over 200 hours in it, and it was something I really think. Of course, you've seen my logo. I like 50s pinup cowgirls. I think they're cool.
Who don't?
So that's exactly. So that's kind of why I chose that to be one of my first pieces was that pinup girl. So
it looks like the inspiration for it was about a case deep into a Miller High Life in the bottle.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like the Miller High Life girl, the champagne of beers sitting on the moon there on their bottle. It looks I mean, it's different,
Right.
but it's
comment.
It's kind of like that. I'm just gonna have to say that inspiration could have been about a case deep into Miller High Life.
Well, he had one bit or something there he called the Big Betty combo. And I thought that sounded like one of your old girlfriends or something.
That is. He named that after my ex-girlfriend, Big Betty.
Oh, Big Betty.
That was his ex-girlfriend too. We both. She really got around. Betty did.
Yeah, no comment. I'm not going to comment on any of that.
What the heck? So you moved to Kansas, and then you became a glorious Okie. And
Yeah. I lived in Oklahoma for about 10 years.
What the heck made you leave Oklahoma, where all these real cowboys are?
Well, I just, it seemed like I mailed a lot of stuff to Texas. Like, that's my biggest customers. And I'd gotten divorced, and I just was looking for a fresh place to start. And, I love Oklahoma. It's one of my favorite places. I'd live in Oklahoma the rest of my life. But it just all kind of fell into place, kind of God's will type deal, and bought me a little place here in Hyco and built a house and shop and barn. My daughter lives with me now, and she's with me about the last 4 years. So it just kind of all fell into place real easy. So I kind of knew it was meant to be. But I won't say anything bad about you Okies. I love you guys. So.
Well, we were Kansans too. At least we're out of that place, really.
Yeah, exactly.
I like a lot of people from Kansas, but I just didn't particularly. I was born there. I just never took to it, Jimbo.
Yeah.
I just never took to it. It never felt like home to me till I got down here to Oklahoma.
It's too hot in the summer and too cold in the winter. There's it's too big a swing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right.
But no, I have a lot of friends in Kansas. I don't have anything against Kansas. But
no, I don't either. I'm just giving them heck.
Yeah, I never sold. I sell a lot of stuff down here. Like, this is my biggest market, and it just seemed like the place where I should be.
For sure.
What do you make your bits and stuff out of, Troy? Does it vary, or is it you use one material?
I use a lot of, like, for the barrel bits. You mean?
Well, just any of them.
Yeah, for the barrel bits, I use a lot of 1018 cold rolled steel. My ball hinge is like a 3/16 stainless ball. For my higher end bits, I use a lot of 4130 just because it's a real clean metal. It polishes really good. It's easier, it's good to engrave. It's hard, it's chromoly is what it is, 4130. So I use a lot of that. I like it real well, but yeah, it's not rocket science.
Right. How much has bit making evolved over the years, do you think?
Well, as far as the designs, I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel. Like, a bit has to fall within a certain template to work, to function correctly. So you can't really change. I mean, there's gimmicks and stuff, but like, you can't really change the template of a bit that works very much. I mean, there's things you can do to tweak it for a particular horse or for particular hands. But I think a lot of guys, I say there's more bit and spur makers than there are cowboys anymore. Seems like everybody's a bit and spur maker today, but it's at what level, how, a guy told me, I had a friend that was one of the original cinch jean salesmen. His name was David Solon. And he told me, he's like, in your craft, you either have to be Neiman Marcus or you have to be Walmart. Mm-hmm. You have to do the absolute best work there is, or you have to do a tremendous volume. Mm-hmm. He said, all those people, they get in the middle, they find a comfort zone and they stay there. And there's nothing wrong with that. They make a decent living at it. But I was just never satisfied with being in the middle. I wanted to be, every day I draw every day trying to get better and improve my skills, improve my design. I want to be as good as I can possibly be. And it's hard because you're never really satisfied. You know, I wish I could be one of those guys that were just, that's good enough. You know, I just can't do that.
I just wondered what the old cowboys on the cattle drives in the 1870s, what their bits looked like. You have any idea?
Well, you know, I think they used a lot of solid cheek, low port because they were pulling a lot. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's changed, but there's no reason why those bits still wouldn't function in a horse's mouth today.
Right.
You know, our good roping bit to this day that we use on most of our horses is an old Crockett bit, solid shank, solid mouthpiece. It's 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think what's evolved more than anything is the horsemanship. You know, where you use different bits because there's a different style of horsemanship than there was 100 years ago. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, they're a little bit different on them nowadays than they were then.
Different ways, Troy, good or bad?
Good, I think. You know, just a little more finesse, a little more. You know, I mean, I think with the showing of horses, it's changed the horsemanship. You know, you can't just tie one down, get on him, and whoop him around. You know, you got to train one to want to perform for you now. You know, and like in the 1880s, it was all about necessity and utilitarian. You know, they were a tool, so it was a whole different style of horsemanship than the show horses of today. And that show horse mentality is leaked down into the cowboy world. You know, you can't tell me those cowboys out there today aren't riding better broke horses than the cowboys of 100 years ago because of the change in horsemanship and the showing horses.
Well, I'd have to say the horses were probably more user-friendly 100 years ago than they are now. I mean, a lot of these trainers now, they keep these horses in a stall 365 days a year, and they just get them out and ride them in their training arena, and then they put them right back in the stall, you know, where there's not very many horses anymore that's been used outside and just used and made a good, honest horse out of before they go on and do some other stuff with them. Seems like they go straight from break-in straight to the arena one way or the other now. And you can sure tell a horse that's never been outside and it's only been in the arena when you're on them. I mean, that's just my personal opinion on it.
Sure, I don't disagree with you. It's a different game. You know, it's comparing apples and oranges, really. You know, like I say, they were using them out of necessity way back when. You know, like they were just a tool, but today they're not necessarily just a tool.
For sure.
In my opinion, but I'm just a dumb bit maker, though.
I'm just old school.
I wonder what Oscar Crockett, he used to have a shop right here across the street from where we're sitting.
Yeah.
Originally, I wonder what he would think of your operation today.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I still do things. This is going to get me in trouble, but you know, everybody has the what is handmade, what is traditional skills, and all that. And so, if you ask 10 different guys, they're going to give you 10 different opinions. So, you know, Oscar, I mean, when he was in Pawhuska, he was a blacksmith, and they were probably forged out. But, you know, eventually, I mean, they were a production line type deal.
Right.
You know, they were stamped out, and you know, it was production line, so they weren't really quote unquote handmade.
Yeah.
But so I guess everybody's opinion of handmade is different. But I would like to think that he would come in my shop and be like, "Man, you're doing it old school, but you're doing it new school too. You know, you're embracing some methods of technology, but I still got a forge and I still got a hammer and anvil too. You know,
mm-hmm.
So I try to." I want to make the best bit I can efficiently. You know, like I want to do it very efficiently, but I want it to be the best. So there's sometimes the hard way is the best way. Right. If that makes sense.
Right.
You know, something that I respect about this TCAA association that you're part of, Troy, is they don't keep their techniques secret from people that want to learn. If people want to learn from them, they They actually show them, try any other profession to try to learn the secrets of the trade and what they do. Well, they're going to keep it to themselves, but these guys, once they're a part of this association, I think it's part of their deal where they have to pass on what they know to other people.
Right.
Absolutely. That's the whole premise of the TCA, is to preserve and promote the art of saddle making, bit and spur making, silversmithing, rawhide braiding. That's the whole premise of the TCA. So yeah, I mean, that's part of what we do is teach. We had each discipline this year so far had a forum, and the bit and spur makers, we had it at Wilson Capron's shop. We invited, I don't remember now, 6, 8, 10 people that we thought that were at a very high level in their skill set, and they had an interest in becoming members of the TCA. We invited them down to Wilson's shop, and we were an open book. Like, what do you want to know? Here's how we do it. And Wilson does things, some things he does totally different than me. Some things we do the same, some things we do similar. So, we're an open book. If you want to know, I'll tell you, I'll show you whatever you want to know, how I do it. I'm not saying it's the right way, the wrong way, the best way, the worst way, but it's my way. So yeah, we have nothing to hide. I mean, we're more than willing to show you what we know and help you on your journey.
That's really something. There's not very many other professions once you reach the elite status of that profession that they're not going to tell you how they got there because they don't want everybody else to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can show you how to get there, but you got to drive the bus. Then, you know what I mean? Like, we can show you how to drive it, but then you got to get in there and do the doing yourself.
Troy, would you call this the association that you're part of and getting in it? Would that be comparable to you making the national finals rodeo to you?
I think it is very similar, except it doesn't pay as well. Everybody thinks, they hear these big numbers as far as what those bits sell for and stuff. But you got to remember, I'm probably going to spend 4 months out of my year. This is kind of a harsh breakdown, but I'm going to spend about 4 months out of my year to make the 3 best things I've ever made, to put in that show that may or may not sell. And I got to pay a 30% commission on top of it. So it's a wholesale price. So financially, it doesn't look that great. However, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it gives me the opportunity, like that bit that I made last year that you were talking about, the Hung on the Moon bit. I never would have made that bit if it wasn't for that show. Like, why would I make a $21,000 bit just to have, So it pushes me, and being around those guys, like-minded individuals, it pushes you to another level. They inspire you and encourage you and cuss you. And, it's a way to get better. It's not the mountaintop. It's just like, once you climb that mountain of being a member of the TCA, you look up and there's another mountain up there, even higher, that you got to try and climb. Well, so I wouldn't trade it for the world.
What's a higher accomplishment you could reach, though, in your profession? Is there one?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
At this point, they're making movies with Troy in it, documentaries. They're writing books, and Troy's involved in the books because he's a part of Western history now. I mean, did you ever think, hanging out there in Pennsylvania, jacking with going to all these little amateur rodeos, roping calves, that someday that you'd be part of the Cowboy Hall of Fame? And
I always thought I'd be a horse. Yeah, I just always figured I'd be a horse trainer, just be riding colts for the rest of my life. And man, it sure took a different turn, and I'm grateful for it and thankful for it, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that the TCAA has provided me. And I just can't say enough good things about it. I know a lot of people. I'm gonna have to climb the water tower for the TCA. A lot of guys talk bad about it and don't like it, but it's been nothing but great for me, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for it.
Well, I mean, it's the pinnacle in my mind in your way of life, and what you do. I mean, I just can't think of anything, a larger association, more prestigious association to be a part of. I mean, Anybody that gives the TCAA a hard time, I mean, they're just ridiculous, because they're the best of the best in every discipline.
They'd trade places with any one of them anytime.
In the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
In the blink of an eye.
It's a lot of pressure, like every year I got to do the best work I can possibly do. And every year it should be getting better.
You should outdo yourself.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of it, but pressure is a privilege. Like anybody that doesn't have pressure on themselves isn't doing very much. And I don't want to sound harsh, but like I thrive on it. Like I enjoy it. I enjoy the pressure. Do I get stressed out about it sometimes? Absolutely. But it's just because I expect a lot of myself, and I know those other 12 members of the TCA are expecting a lot out of me too. And I don't want to let those guys and gals down. So I'm going to do the best work I can do and continue to get better.
Have you figured out what you're going to take to the show this fall?
Yes, sir. Well, I have to have those pieces turned in by July 1st so they can be photographed and cataloged. So I've got 3 or 4 projects underway right now. I should have one bit completed by the end of this week. I'm hoping that's my goal. Bo Compton, you guys had him on before, silversmith in the TCA. He called me last fall and wanted to collaborate on something. So him and I are collaborating on a bit. I actually forged out a billet of Damascus steel and made the bit out of the Damascus that I made, and he made me some conchos. I'm sure you probably saw it on Facebook, but I'm working on that this week. Hopefully going to get it wrapped up, and then got a couple other collaboration projects working. So and then a bit and a pair of spurs. So I'm down to the wire. It's a busy time right now, but I'm looking forward to showing everybody what I come up with.
Where'd you learn that engraving at?
Well, I was pretty hard-headed. I bought some DVDs back in the 90s and started watching them and created a lot of terrible habits. And one of the first workshops that I went to, the TCA workshops I went to at Oklahoma City back 15 years ago, was a steel engraving workshop that Wilson and Ernie Marsh were putting on. And then, I learned a lot from those guys. And then I went and stayed for a week with Sam Alfano in Louisiana by New Orleans. He's a world-class gun engraver and teacher. And I spent a week with him. He's the one that got me to start engraving under a microscope. And that just opened a whole new world up for me for quality of engraving and design and stuff like that. So I've had a lot of help. I went to Wilson and I went to a 2-week-long deal in Emporia, Kansas at GRS Tools. It was called the Grand Masters. It was 2 weeks. We studied under an Australian engraver, and then took another class maybe a year or so ago, 2 years ago at Jeff Park in Arizona. Always trying to learn new techniques and to get better. So still learning though.
Troy, I'm gonna put you on the spot a minute. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of bit and spur makers?
Number 1 would be Ernie Marsh. I'm going to say Greg Darnell, just as far as functionality and even artistic ability. I think Greg's pretty amazing. He's really studied the functionality of bits more than anybody probably. Ernie Marsh, of course, just from his design and his craftsmanship and art. And the third guy, man, that'd be a tough one.
Got to have 4.
4, okay. Yeah. I would say Al Tejan would be a good one. He a lot of functionality and artwork. I think he was pretty great.
Yeah, he made some fancy stuff.
Yeah, and I'm going to say my good friend Wilson Capron. I think Wilson has done a ton for me in the design aspect of bit and spur making and art. He's really helped me personally. So I'm going to say those 4 guys.
Well, that's a pretty good list.
Ain't bad. Not a bad list.
That's a pretty dang good list.
Yeah, and he didn't stutter. He spit them right out. A lot of guys have
I'd
trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure as soon as I hang up, I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have named that guy instead. But yeah, I would say I feel really good about Ernie and Greg and Willie and Al. I think those guys really did a lot for the art, for the business, for the craft.
I guess I just have to put Troy on there after seeing that bid he made last year.
Oh yeah,
with that
sound
girl
like
sitting
it.
on the moon.
Right.
You got to see it in person, didn't you, Cody? You were there.
I did. I got to see it in person.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. We went to a collector in Colorado, so that was pretty cool.
Well, that guy knows what he's buying, because
Yeah.
if I was going to buy one thing there last year, it would have been that bit right there.
Oh, thank you. I expect to see you and your checkbook there this year then.
Well, if I could have convinced him to take a check last year, I'd have it today.
If that check ain't no good, let me know. I'll write you another one.
That's right. Well, but that sounds like an old horse sale deal that we've both seen before, Troy.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't say we were doing it. I said we've seen one. Someone else.
Yeah, right. Maybe took one, huh?
Yeah, don't put this in until Monday, please.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I've done that at rodeos too, Jimbo. Gosh, dang.
Oh,
Yeah, go win something, go back up there and say, hey, can I get that check back?
Exactly. I've done that.
Yeah,
I've done that. You haven't rodeoed unless you've done that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
Troy, we appreciate you coming on.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me. I hope it wasn't too boring, but I don't really have that exciting of a story, but I appreciate you guys telling it very much.
I mean, we got a Pennsylvania steel worker making bits and spurs down in Texas now. I mean, it sounds like a good story. Sounds like a good story to me.
Well, I appreciate it. Man, Cody, I'm so proud of you, what you've done there around Pawhuska. I love coming up there and seeing what you've done, and man, I'm proud of you. You've done a lot too.
Well, that's vice versa. Right back to you, Troy. I mean, it's just good to know a guy that's as good a guy as you and as talented as you.
Troy,
Well, I appreciate that.
I bet you never dreamed he'd mount anything when you knew him when he was a little kid up in Kansas.
Man, I told maybe Jay Adcock, I was like, man, I wouldn't have gave much for that boy's future.
That's right.
But I'm glad you proved me wrong. You have a great set of parents, and I have great respect for your mom and dad and for you. So congratulations on all your success.
Well, all right. We appreciate it, Troy. Get on up here and see us one of these days.
I'll do it. Tell your mom and dad hello.
I will, man.
We'll see you, Troy.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, Jimbo. Adios.
Bye.
Well, howdy. That was interesting, wasn't it,
Yeah,
Jimbo?
that was good.
No doubt about it.
Pretty interesting guy.
He's pretty humble to be
Oh, yeah.
pretty much at the pinnacle of his profession, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little more humble than
He's
old
on the
Deion
mountain
Sanders
top.
is.
I'm curious to see what he's going to make this year for the big show.
I want to see that Damascus piece he's making. I
Wow.
bet that's pretty amazing.
Wow.
But
I
that's-
had no idea they had that many hours, though, on some of that stuff.
No.
That's crazy.
They're only charging $110 an hour.
I know.
That seems pretty cheap for.
Hey, really, that's
That
I
kind of work.
think I'm going to go down and buy some stuff this year.
Yeah. All right.
Not.
Sounds good to me.
Probably won't make it.
Hell, I'm probably going to go, but I can't buy nothing, Jimbo.
Right.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. We'll see you the first and third Thursday every month. Now
Right.
we changed our schedule.
Right.
Don't forget to come see the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum. Order you a hat from Shorty's Cowboy Hattery, best custom hat in the business. And then don't forget Mother's Day is coming up. Come to the Buck and Flamingo and get old mama some
yeah.
jewelry.
Absolutely.
All right, see y'all next time.
Later.